You may wonder, why life to life? Well, the phrase comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 16. Paul talking about the word of God at work and how it carries the fragrance of life to those who are being saved, from one life to the next life, from life to life, one thing passing into another. And that's what faithful teaching does. This podcast is called Life to Life, and it exists because I believe the same thing that Paul was talking about there, that the Word of God is alive, and that it's meant to be opened and applied and carried into the week, into the ordinary moments of your life. Most of what we do isn't that dramatic. It's sometimes even mundane. It's getting up in the morning and going to work. It's a conversation that didn't go well. It's a decision that doesn't feel spiritual at all. But Christ is Lord over all of it, every inch of it, every hour, every ordinary moment. And that's what we're going to explore together. I'm Chuck Baggett. I've been preaching and teaching for a long time, but I'm not starting this podcast because I think I've got everything figured out. I'm starting it because the Word of God keeps opening up. And I want to share what I'm seeing. But then there's one other reason this is called Life to Life. I want to tell you about a man named Clyde Cranford. I met Clyde when I was in college. Clyde was about 15 years older than I am. And Clyde had been a music minister. He spent some time as an itinerant minister. But then the last 8 years or so of his life, he spent just pouring his life into other young men, uh, from one life to another. And his ministry was named Life to Life. I can remember calling his house in the days before cell phones were readily available, and getting his answering machine at times and hearing, this is Clyde Cranford in the home of Life to Life Ministries. Clyde went to be with the Lord in 2000. And as I was looking at titles for podcast, I looked to see if actually a different one was available. And there were about 4 active podcasts with that title. Very different subject matters, but still, that could be confusing. And then I thought about Life to Life. And at first I was hesitant to use it because Clyde had used it. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, it is appropriate. And then I looked and I didn't find others, using that, and certainly not to the degree that the other title I had in mind was being used. And so, Life to Life. There are new episodes coming soon. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. By the way, if you want to stick around for just another moment, I want to tell you just a little interesting tidbit. If you're ready to sign off, see you next time. For those who hang around, Clyde had a big baritone voice, and um, he made a couple of albums during his lifetime. And I have not seen these in years. They were, I'm sure, not widely distributed, maybe around the Mid-South. You could find them in the bookstore of Mid-America Baptist Theological Seminary in Memphis. You could find them, I think, in the bookstore at Bellevue Baptist Church, in the bookstore that Rick Couples owned in West Memphis, Arkansas, and I'm sure some other places. But I have not seen one of these in years. About 2 weeks ago, I was in Oxford, Mississippi. I walked into a Goodwill store to pass a few moments of time while my son was looking in a neighboring store. As I walked through the store, they had this tub of albums. And I really don't ever stop and look at albums because I don't even have a record player. But for some reason I stopped. These were all marked down to $1, and I started flipping through them. And guess what I found? I found this album, Clyde's first album, Clyde Cranford, My Jesus, My Lord, and My Friend. I just thought that was pretty cool. Thought I'd share it with you. I went and bought a record player so I could play the album. This is Life to Life. Hope to see you around.